Hey, welcome everybody to Hash Church 3.0 episode 20. Just like that, huh? We're at 20 episodes now. Unbelievable. And I have been letting people into the room before we started, as you may notice. I'm just going to go in and turn the mute button down on this, and then I've got to share the link to our other chat, which is right here. So just give me a few seconds to do that. There we go. And all right, excellent. We got Colin coming in as well. Good morning, gentlemen. My regulars, Wade and Etienne, Johnny fucking B, pardon my français. And of course, Mr. Colin Palmer's in the house. And I want you guys to meet a new friend of mine, Karu, who's with us today from Mexico City. And he is a Japanese activist who's been doing the good fight, kind of the very same thing that we've been doing for all of these years. And I guess Japan wasn't having it, and he ended up having to kind of get his ass over to Mexico. I'm going to let him introduce himself and tell his story, but just wanted to kind of give you guys a little introduction so you could say hello to our guest today. And I just love hearing from the youth. I love hearing from people from other countries. We all know that Japan is very, very strict with cannabis, in particular, the use of it, the promotion of it. So I'm hoping that Karu can sort of shed a little light on what's going on over there in Japan and what really brought him to Mexico City. So welcome, brother. Welcome to Hash Church. And don't forget your mic is muted. Oh, your mic is muted. You got to unmute.
Is it on right now?
Now it's on, absolutely.
Good. Thanks for having me today. Sorry. Yeah. So is it like, can I just tell the story of my...
Yeah, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, thanks for introducing me. I'm a Karu from Japan. I was just born and raised in Japan, like a normal Japanese guy. And while I was in there, I had basic drug education from elementary school to high school, once per year. But the drug education system is pretty bad there. Everything is mixed up. Heroin, cocaine, weed, everything is the same. That's what our government told us. Well, but after graduated from the high school, I actually went to Hawaii for studying, for community college. And I took one class. It's like a social science. And there's one topic from the textbook, and it was know the difference. So some things are considered as differently in other country. And there was an example, and that was the weed. So I learned about the weed in the class, and I have interest. So well, I did doing research by mostly just Googling about the cannabis, and I found out it can be used medicinal too, as a medicinal purpose too. So I went to the street and bought small packet of the cannabis from guy. Well, it was kind of sketchy guy, but it was actually cannabis. And I brought back to my dormitory and used it for the first time. And that's why I could realize the cannabis isn't that bad, as our government told us. Well, I found out about the lie, and after I graduated the college, I went back to Japan, and I was just start working as an office job. But I wanted to finish my degree thing. I wanted to get degree, so I studied abroad again. But next time was California, and at that time, actually medicinal purpose was completely legalized in state of California. So I took medicinal license, and I was studying about journalism in the university in California. So I set up the blog, and I started tell the story about cannabis and tourists of cannabis. Well, and after that, after I graduated from university, I went back to Japan again, and I started working as an office worker again. But eventually I got bored, and I wanted to develop my web blog thing. So so after that, I wanted to develop my blog. And I wanted to grow weed, how to grow weed so that people can use it in Japan. because every resources are like in English mostly. So I actually went back to California again, and there's a school like teaching about how to grow cannabis and like of local laws in cannabis. And the school name is like Oaksterdam University. So I went there and learned a lot about cultivation. And I brought back the info. I spent there for 3 months, and I went back to Japan again and brought back the info from the Oxfordham, and I translated a lot of info about growing stuff. And after that, while I was doing my weblog thing, I took the job again, like office worker, as an office worker, like a regular Japanese guy. But I got bored again, like pretty soon. So I decided to live somewhere else to keep doing this weblog things, because providing info is like really important part of like legalizing cannabis stuff. So I was like looking for the place and decided to go to Mexico. Somehow, I don't know, but I had like a kind of interest to this country while I was in university in California. So I decided to be here, and while I was be here like last time, I was growing cannabis stuff and had like a lot of hands-on experience. And yeah, I provided the info about how to grow, like from seed to everything, like seed to harvest or something. And while I was being Mexico last time, I was looking for a job because I needed to stay a long time. Well, eventually I got a job, but I had to go back to Japan again to switch my visa status. I was there like tourist visa, so I had to switch it. So I went back to Japan, and I was waiting for like paperwork from like ministry, like Mexican embassy in Japan. And while I was waiting the paperwork, like police came to my place and raided my place and took me to somewhere in like some rural area in Japan. I'm actually from Tokyo, but we took like train, and like it was like 4 or 5 hours trip, and I got detained. Yeah, police took me to like detention center in some kind of rural area, and I spent there like 40 days over there. It was like basically like same as like prison in Japan. Well, less strict though, but I wasn't free for 40 days. And after 40 days, I got like didn't get charged like any crime. So eventually I could come back to Mexico again, and I could, well, that's why I'm here right now, being an activist, still keep doing this. Yeah, that's my story. Sorry for a long time. Sorry for
No,
taking a long
no,
time.
not at all, man.
Thanks.
That's crazy. So where were you when you spent the 40 days? Was that in Japan?
Yeah, it was in Japan.
Wow. And
But
they held you for 40 days and told you we're holding you because of your vlog and because of the information on cannabis that you're sharing?
right. So because of like the info I provided, how to grow and the medicinal purpose, and like police thought like I'm pushing to use cannabis, pushing to making people use cannabis. Yeah, that's why I got arrested.
And then they let you go. And then they said to you, did they say, we don't want to see any more of this from you?
They said that, right. I mean, after I got free, they sent me an email about like shutting down my blog.
Wow. So you got to explain to us a little bit, because I know a little bit about the Japanese culture and I know how tightly wound it can be. And
Mhm.
I got to ask you, like, on top of the fact that like you're putting a lot aside to promote this plant. I mean, is it not sort of an extremely intense energy or feeling to sort of embarrass or get in trouble in the Japanese
Mhm.
culture?
Wait, what was the question? Is that like
Well, getting
how?
getting getting in trouble or
Sorry.
looking, having something look bad,
Right.
like like embarrassing your family. Are
Uh,
those not things that are extra sensitive in the Japanese culture?
oh yeah, it's a very, very well, it's considered as like pretty bad things to do, for the passion for that. Definitely.
And
because crime is very hard.
what do your parents think about all this?
Well, first of all, I mean, my mother, want me to stay outside Japan. But because of that, this boy learned about cannabis and, right now keeps smoking it. But she is like understandable right now. She thinks it's okay,
Oh, wow,
because
that's
I provided a lot of info and books written in English or something, and I translate it for her. So now she understands everything though.
well, isn't that the power of this intense plant and the intensity of understanding it in each language? When my friend Paulo approached me to do an online course for the Brazilian people,
Wow.
I was like, well, don't they have the internet? Don't they have access to all this information? And he said, they really don't, because all the information is in English and there's not a lot of
Right.
information in Portuguese. And
Mm-hmm.
so I went and did a class that is
Mm-hmm.
all in Portuguese
Mm-hmm.
for extractions and whatnot. But it sounds like we might have to do one for the Japanese culture as
Exactly.
well, because this
Mhm.
is very important work that you're doing, and the fact that you've got governments down on you and you've got like a whole, almost the entire, country of Japan, like leaning towards you saying, hey, don't do this. I mean, to put you in jail for 40 days as just the
Yeah,
first kind of warning that's incredible to me, man. That is
that
a
was
long time to put someone into a jail that
right.
hasn't even been charged with a crime.
I didn't have anything, not a gram of weed. I was just providing info, but they came.
So let's talk about that. I guess in a sense, while you were in Japan, you
Mhm.
sort of owed it to yourself to make sure while you were sharing this information that you didn't have big bags of weed sitting around.
No. Yeah.
So just how illegal is cannabis in Japan for our audience? If you get caught with a gram or you get caught with, say, half an ounce, what are the repercussions of such a thing?
Well, if someone possess like a cannabis, even though if it's like a gram or something, you will get like at maximum like 5 years for like prison time. And if you sell it, you're gonna get like maximum like 7 years for prison time with like 20,000 US dollars. It's a fine. Yeah, it's fine for like 20,000. And if you grow it and sell it, like for commercial reason, well, it's obviously illegal though, but you will get like up maximum like 10 years for prison time, and you have to pay the fine for like 30,000 US dollar equivalent. Well, it's in Japanese yen though. Yeah, that's how severe we have. Yeah, the laws are.
How far do you think we are in Japan moving things forward? How many Karurus are there in Japan? Is there a group of you guys? Are there more than one of you? And do you communicate with one another to try and create that web so you can make sure you guys are doing the good work together?
Yeah, actually, we have like a organization group like NPO, but the progress it's not going well. Not yet, not yet. And it's been like the organization has been doing like for more than decades, I guess. Definitely more than decades, but still we're in this situation.
Well, what is something that the viewers of Hash Church and the panelists, for that matter, because I don't know if you know this about us, but we're kind of big proponents of the cannabis plant. We really like to stick our nose in where it somewhat doesn't belong and kind of get things accelerated. So if there was a way that Hash Church panelists, Hash Church audience could potentially accelerate these groups, how could we do that? What are the names of these groups? Where can we find these groups? Can we support these groups with information, with monetary donations? What are the things we can do?
Well, first of all, for the organization, like it's called it doesn't have like English name because it's national thing. But if you just Google it, like a cannabis organization in Japan, maybe you can find it. It's called, I don't know how many audiences like from here like can understand Japanese, but it's called like 医療タイムを考える会. It's called like I don't know how to translate it, but it's like a medical cannabis association in Japan or something like that. Yeah. And also, like, if you guys like hit the subscribe button for my channel, that'd be pretty great, because I sometimes collaborate with the guy from the organizations too.
Okay, can you share your channel with us? And I'll also be putting it up
Oh.
in the comment section of the YouTube channel here.
It's called the high class, like this, the high class. That's my channel.
I like it. Wonderful. And that's
Thank
on
you.
YouTube
Thank you.
here.
Yeah, that's YouTube here. And my name, Karu TSG. I use like social media with this name, like everything, like Twitter, Instagram, or anything. So if you guys can, Google it and follow me, that'll be very, very appreciable.
Oh, I thought I was muted there. Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna put it into the comment section of the video, and I'll go and make sure I find your exact channel. But the high class is what he mentioned there, guys, in the chat who are watching right now. So we do have a couple of folks watching with us right now. I'm not sure exactly how many, but there's usually 300 or 400. Oh, we got almost 300 for this early in the morning, so that's good. Skunkman Sam, welcome to the room. We're just talking to Karu, who's a Japanese cannabis activist who had to flee Japan so that they wouldn't continue to lock him up. They locked him up for 40 days just for translating grow information for the people in Japan, in Japanese. So he's now in Mexico City. I guess still promoting as much as you can and still getting your vlog up or your blog up on and to the Japanese people. Is the government there fighting that? Is there a way for them to shut your sites down or your information from getting to the people?
That's a very difficult. I used to receiving the email. I used to receive the email from like Japanese police, but now it's no more, because I did something for the blog to maintain. I cannot tell about like exactly what I did, but so I think it's safe now. But still, if I go back to Japan, they can still like arrest me. I'm pretty sure about this.
Yeah, I would be very wary myself, and I don't think it would be like you getting home and a week passing. I think it would probably be at the airport as you were entering the country, which is just the worst after a long flight. I mean, don't get me wrong, it sucks pretty bad when you're sitting at home enjoying a Netflix special with your girl and they kick the door down too. But after that 13-hour flight to get to your country, the country that should literally be potentially building a statue of you at one point in time, because you're sharing information that is going to help the people of the country. There's just no doubt about it. Last time I checked, every single person in Japan had an endocannabinoid system. And the last time I checked, cannabinoids regulate all biological functions through that system. So it would seem as though you are doing the good work, as John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd said in the movie Blues Brothers. We are on a mission from God. Whether you believe in God or not, I feel that you are definitely on a higher mission. And when your friend, who's in the chat right now, mentioned that you had an interest on coming in and sharing your story, I was 100% for it. I know that everyone in the audience is asking, what can we do to help? We love the church. Thanks for everything you do for cannabis and the people that use it. We are so far ahead of where you are at right now that sometimes we forget a little bit, because we've been in this fight for so long and we've acquired all of these different freedoms from medical and recreational and being able to have, a licensed and regulated framework that allows us to engage in this, this plant that we love so much. We sometimes forget that there's still people rotting away in cages, and there's still people that are being, attacked by governments. And it's something we have to spend a little more time kind of here on Hash Church in particular, going backwards a little bit and, helping out some of these places that that aren't California or that aren't Colorado or Canada for that matter. We've got to kind of make sure that we make the international play here positive for all countries involved. And I think Japan is a very good one because, you know, it seems to have an incredible culture and incredible people, but in this one aspect, they just seem to have gotten this really, really wrong. So I, for one, thank you, Karu, for doing the work that you're doing. And I ask again, if there's anything I can do, perhaps what we need to do is we need to get some of this group that you were talking about in Japan. I think someone translated the name, something about cannabinoid. Share the real info with the Japanese Clinical Association of Cannabinoids. So there's another one. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that one, but it would be great. The same way you have been translating information into Japanese from our groups, it would be amazing if you could translate some of what they have into English for our group so that we can understand a way to maybe engage with these groups a little bit more and to help these groups a little bit more. Just an idea. Anyone else have any questions for Karu or anything they wanted to say?
Yeah, this is Wade. Thank you for coming in and talking with us, Karu. It's stunning to hear that kind of government interference with a healing plant is still going on. It's good to be reminded of how far we've come in some parts of the world and how far we have to go in other parts of the world. Do you think, or anyone else in the group think that the recent changes at the UN, where they found that that cannabis does not belong in the schedule of controlled substances and have recommended that changes be made in laws across the world on that? Do you think that will make any difference in Japan?
So you're asking me like because of like rescheduling the drug schedule, does that affect us? Like, how do you think?
Well, the UN has an a treaty that covers all countries are supposed to be signatories to it, I guess,
right,
that determines how everyone's going to respond to drugs. And cannabis has, as you said, it used to be that it was linked with heroin and some of the other drugs that are more problematic, if you will. So, yeah, I don't know how much. I know in the United States, the UN Convention on Drugs once had a lot of meaning. It doesn't seem to have a lot of meaning at the moment. We'll see how it plays out. But I was just wondering if you have any sense if that might make a difference to the Japanese authorities.
Well, that's very difficult. I mean, not a lot of people knows that, you know, like rescheduling things, and actually it seems like it didn't have like any impact on us, you know. And the thing is like our government is like thinking of creating new crime for like usage of cannabis, which we didn't used to have it. So I have no idea, you know, like the whole world is kind of toward to like legalization, but now we are like making it new one. So it seems like it didn't, you know, affect like in a good way about the rescheduling things. Did I answer you correctly? I'm sorry if I didn't get your question like correctly.
No, you got the question. It's my sense that it's not clear if any effect will come from this new finding by the UN. But I view it as exciting news in terms of the whole world and its view on cannabis. But yeah, I realize every country, every jurisdiction has a different version of, and prohibition is still running strong in many parts of the world. So yeah, again, thanks for coming in, Karu.
Thank you. Thanks for asking me.
Wade, what you bring up is true, because now every nation has to weigh in on what the UN has done. And Karu, I think this is definitely an arrow in your quill that you can fire there in Japan, because medical marijuana is now internationally recognized. I want to thank you. I'm a former teacher at Oaksterdam University, and I consider you one of us. Daimasenshi,
Cool.
Cannabis warrior. So thank you very much for your hard work and your dedication. As you know, it comes with great risk and sacrifice. as you are finding out, and it absolutely frustrates me to hear Japan continue to push this type of prohibition when there are or were up to 10 growers I'm aware of that grow cannabis in Japan, traditionally hemp, for kimonos. I saw a thing not too long ago on they showed the women who actually would peel apart the hemp with their teeth, and their teeth are completely worn down from separating the fibers from the lignin from individual fibers. So it is such a traditional crop in the sense of going back thousands of years and still used for traditional ceremonial kimonos to this day. So how does the Japanese culture weigh the prohibition when they know there is traditional use, or have they been so given so much misinformation that the traditional Japanese are not aware of their traditional hemp usage and cannabis usage?
We aware about like traditional use of the hemp and cannabis plants. Of course, we know that, but not a lot of people, and some of us like just forgot about that. Like once we have it, once we, live with the plant, because, there's a religion, it's a particular religion from, I think it's from Japan, but it's called Shinto. Like you said, we use the plant, I mean, like for the spiritual reason and like traditional reason, but we forgot about that completely after we got banned. Yeah, after the plant got banned from by the United States. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Well, keep up the good work and the hard fight, because we respect what you're doing. That's how it started off in Canada. Originally, Canada had a prohibition on any information, and that's how Mark Henry got famous originally, was the High Times case, originally importing High Times, Marcus?
Yeah, he was importing books that weren't allowed. He just thought that was the most ridiculous thing ever. He was just like, "What do you mean you can't have these books? Like, what is this, like Nazi Germany? We're burning books now?" And he honestly couldn't wrap his head around it. And this was like, it had to have been the 80s. And I'm not sure if the book thing happened after or before. But another thing he did that really like got in the craw of the Toronto people, the Ontario people, where they would do these garbage strikes, and then he would go out and hire scabs with his own money and trucks to go pick up the garbage so that it wasn't just sitting around all nasty and disgusting, which is what the garbage men want, so they can get paid more money. But he wasn't having it. He was like, you know what? You can get paid more money another way. You don't have to put all of our people at risk by allowing garbage to sit for weeks on end. And so that was another thing that he did. He always liked to do things that society sort of told him, you're not allowed to do this. And of course, he's gotten himself into a bunch of hot water over it over the years. But yes, he definitely was importing High Times and some other books that at his bookstore in London, Ontario, I believe, where he was selling these High Times and some other books that that Canada had a law against, which was kind of unbelievable, that just one guy sort of pushing that, and then eventually he would start his own magazine. Like eventually he would, I just think that he was standing behind High Times thinking that, like, I'm going to help these guys and we're going to push this. And then he kind of slowly realized, I don't think High Times is the group to do this. I don't think these aren't the cannabis warriors I thought they were. So then he started his own cannabis magazine, Cannabis Culture. And I think that magazine went for about 15 plus years. And it was pretty good. It was a pretty good magazine over the years.
Well, it was a seed catalog with content over time.
It was. That's how we funded the entire thing. It had a 20-page seed catalog, but funny enough, like photos that High Times scoffed at buying from me, in particular, my macro photography. They just thought people didn't want to see that, which is hilarious because it's what all people want to see nowadays with macro photography. But Mark was the first magazine out of all of them to purchase my macro photographs, and he'd buy them like 20, 30, 40 photos at a time. Whereas, High Times was just like, no, we don't want those. And then eventually, Weed World and Red Eye and all these other magazines sort of caught up to to those types of photos. But Mark was a little bit ahead of his time in that way.
Didn't he get the Sunday shopping opened up as well? Those old blue laws?
I think he did that as well. Exactly. The whole Christianity, like, oh, we're at church on Sundays. And he's like, well, guess what? Not everyone's a Christian. Like, not everyone goes to church on Sundays. Like, some of us want to go to the mall on Sundays because we work on Mondays. And we're not going to be able to do our shopping till like Friday afternoon if we don't go on Sundays. So yeah, he's been a stickler for a long time, always getting people to react. That's Mark's specialty.
He also had some incredible varieties that he offered. I remember the Kong specifically, Kong. It's like an offspring of a Big Bud cross or something. But I remember seeing like almost 2-liter bottle colas off that variety like when I was younger growing it. And it always stuck in my mind that he always represented this exactly what was it, the story, that you lived, Karu, and the things that you're exerting remind me of all the stories that I know that Marcus has lived, Skunkman has lived, myself, Wade. They are so familiar, the things that you were touching on, and I commend you greatly for following your passion and going towards it. It's something a lot of individuals have a hard time accepting and believing in sometimes. I know it's something I've struggled with over the years, and I finally cracked out of my shell of finally just being like, you know what, I love this, and I've always loved it, so what? So I'm going to now talk about it as much as I can to try to share that love. So it's, I really commend you in a big way, man. Keep the torch and keep it burning bright, man. Appreciate it.
That's it. Keep it burning bright. And speaking of burning bright, I think it's time for a little banana pudding. What do you guys say? You down for some banana pudding?
Let's burn one in honor of this man. We're all freedom fighters, and we've all towed our ropes. You got to understand, Karu, 30 years ago when I was on the road, they said, kids, stop talking this talk, go home. It's never going to happen in your lifetime. Give it up, stop, go away. So, we feel what you are going through and greatly respect everything that you're trying to do and why you're trying to do it. What you're doing is noble. What you're doing is respectful. What you're doing is honest. And to know that you have a government trying to stop you, I know and I hope you have found traditional Japanese have embraced what you are doing and believe in what you are doing. So how big is the group that you have there in Japan? How small was it and where is it today?
Well, first of all, thanks for, telling me like a lot of stuff, like that means a lot to me. And the organization is like keep decreasing the members actually, because like it was like it's been doing like more than decades, and some of the members like I used to be patient of like a severe illness, but those people like eventually have passed away like a lot, so members are like getting decreased. So we are like forming, I think, like new groups or something. That'll be definitely better for legalizing stuff.
It'd be great if we could somehow make them bilingual groups and have them be Japanese and English, because it would be great if we could somehow get some of our information, and perhaps you're the conduit that we can do that through. Perhaps we can feed great information to you, help back you up on your fight with this, and just sort of get the caliber of information that no government can deny. We have information that cannot be denied. There's ways of painting these governments into corners, particularly with children who require these medicines, catastrophically ill children in particular. There's very few governments that want to stand against that. They have no hard time, like, oh, hippies and long-haired dudes with tie-dye shirts. They'll stand against those guys all day long. But when it comes to a little girl having seizures and suddenly not having seizures, I mean, you got to be a heartless, demoned to not feel empathy in such a situation. And, Wade is someone that could help a lot with stuff like that. Etienne, myself, everyone on the panel here, we are, I don't speak alone when I say we are available to you, Karu.
Karu, I also in the chat, I posted a group that I work with. Pardon me. I'm a combat veteran. I served in the military. And a bunch of us veterans got together recently and we published our first white paper called the Green Paper. And I put a link to it in the chat. So if you open it up, it's a piece of information that you can use. The original part of the 1993 submittal by Patient Zero here in the United States, which is Robert Randall. He is the gentleman who sued the United States and won the right to actually receive cannabis grown by the United States federal government. And it's a fascinating piece of literature that was submitted to the Clinton administration back in the day. That's how far, going back to 1993, we have not moved forward in the United States. But please take this information, because the back end of it is also what Wade was speaking to. One of our veterans, Michael Krowitz, and another group actually changed the law internationally. So the back end of it is the submittal with the World Health Organization and the United Nations information regarding that recent change on December 2nd, 2020. So take that information and spread it, translate it. It's there as an educational tool to help. And shout out to my Veterans Action Council brothers and sisters. Much love.
Thanks for providing that info. I just checked the link there. Thank you.
Another link that I just put up to chat. First of all, very, very nice to meet you. Wait a second, let me practice my Japanese. Hajimemashite.
That's really good. Thank you. Hajimemashite. Nice to meet you too.
Very nice to meet you. So Professor Watanabe is a very, very famous researcher in the area of CBD and how it's metabolized in the liver, and has published very, very important research in this area. I don't know if he is a proponent of cannabis, but I could tell you that their research group has published very important papers on how CBD is metabolized in the liver. So maybe a way to sort of embrace the medical aspects of cannabis is to get support within the Japanese universities, and perhaps Professor Watanabe is a place to start.
Excellent idea, Mark. Leading him to any type of professors that have published papers. That is, you want to back yourself up with as much stuff that's already being done by respected members of the Japanese community. And you want to back yourselves up. I would be creating relationships with those people.
Because science is an international language. And actually there is the Japanese Bulletin of Pharmaceutical Sciences is a very, very important, top-notch peer-reviewed journal in this field. And in my area of chemistry and natural products chemistry, some of the most important work and Nobel Prize winning chemistry has come out of Japanese researchers. I've met one Japanese professor, Professor Nayori, who won a Nobel Prize. But in this area, in cannabinoids, I think Professor Watanabe had many other students who work for him, and they're now working at other institutions. And so I think what you see is that if you can get with him and try to find out his network of cannabinoid research that's going on currently in Japan, it might be a way for the Japanese culture to embrace the medical aspects of what cannabinoids can do.
The other important one in Japan is Dr. Shoyama, who I've met several times at ICRS meetings. And let me tell you, he of course, he also made one mistake. He thought CBD was the precursor for THC, but he figured it out later. And he also was one of the first ones to put the synthase for THC into tobacco roots and feed the medium with CBG, and it transformed it. He was the first one in the world to do this.
So we'll
Yeah,
make a point on getting a list of all these different names and papers, just in case you don't know some of them, Karu. You may know all of them. I'm not sure what level you're at in your absorbing of knowledge at this point, but we'll put everything we can together and get it sent off in an email, so you have links and full names and stuff, so you can I think it's an excellent idea to lean into the science aspect of it.
It was Professor Watanabe's lab that published that very controversial finding of CBD converting into THC in synthetic gastric juice. And that was a very controversial article because it implied that potentially you can orally take CBD, and in the gut, where it's acidic, it could turn into THC. And they actually identified, I think, 4 metabolites from their work. But then there was follow-up work, and Ethan Russo actually commented on some following papers because they weren't able to see any elevated levels of THC in the bloodstream of patients that were administered CBD only. But I think there were some flaws to that study, and I don't think that that's fully understood. But it was Professor Watanabe's first paper in this area that caused a lot of research and concern in the area. And so his paper is highly cited, and it's a very, very important paper for what it represents.
So people in the chat are asking if they do cannabis marches in Japan. Is there ever anything like that?
Yes, we have actually a cannabis march in Japan. It happens like May. Definitely, yeah. Usually it happens May, and it's in like Tokyo, Shibuya. So it's not, we are in like under the pandemic right now, so probably it's difficult to travel. But if you guys have like opportunity, please go there and like join the march. That march like welcomes you like anyway. So
would it be good advice when you're visiting Japan at the cannabis march to probably not have any cannabis on you?
Well, I definitely not recommend you having something,
Yeah, I do know. I think I'll be eating gummies before I go out for that one.
Definitely. Well, you can definitely smell, like, smell the plant somewhere, but definitely not have it with you.
It's such a crazy thing, this whole prohibition of this plant. Like, this plant is loud. It's like, it's the equivalent of it just going, hey, I'm over here. And you're just trying not to like heat yourself out back in the day. Now, apparently that day is today in Japan, but for us, it was 20 plus years ago. Like on fish tour down in the US, where they were like having binoculars on the buildings next to the parking lots, looking down at people. And they have these guys in the crowd that kind of look like hippies, but they're actually narcotics officers, and they're trying to bust people.
DEA project called
Dude, and we're all just like potentiating our stereotypes and burning weed and big bags of weed and eating psychedelics. And oh my goodness, what were we thinking? I think.
Well, that's funny, Karu. I wanted to ask you this as I was listening to you speak before, is that, and Marcus will agree with me, that part of the cannabis culture has evolved around music and certain music genres. And one of the things that I'm, connected with is the Grateful Dead, and that kind of morphed into Fish, which is, kind of like where Marcus and I have common musical roots. And it's funny because in Japan, there are Grateful Dead cover bands and there are Fish cover bands in Japan. So I'm wondering if there's like a little micro cannabis culture around those bands that play the music that we listen to and associate cannabis with. Oh, there's John Fishman.
This is from like 93 or 94. Syracuse.
Yeah, look at that. So, Karu, is there any scene around those cover bands that bring cannabis around? I don't know.
Well, there's a like a very famous hip hop unit, group in Japan, they look pretty scary. They look pretty like a gangster type, like Japanese gangster type. But actually, those guys like promoting like cannabis in a good way in a younger among like younger generations us. So I mean, we still have hope. We still have for that. Yeah. But hey, so regarding sorry for like starting new topic, but regarding the science is like a universal language, like that's what Marx says, right? You just mentioned, but we know like there's a science, but like too much propaganda from the government, that brainwashes us. So I want to know like how we can stop that, because our government keep telling like once you do it, once you smoke cannabis, you will be fucked up like whole life, and you will have like a tendency to kill someone, and you'll be barren. That's what our government is teaching us. How do we think, like how can we stop that? What do you guys think? I mean, if I can beg you like for the advice, I'm begging you to teach me that.
It's what you're doing. It's exactly what you're doing. It's information.
Right.
So
Information.
the brainwashing happens the most effectively when there's no alternative information flow. When it's just the narrative is being controlled 100%, it's really easy to brainwash people. Whatever you feed them, they'll basically swallow. But the minute you start putting other streams into that, that knowledge that's not controlled by them, which is why they're so strict with you sharing information. They put you in jail for 40 days without charging you. They flexed on you so hard. They said, this is how powerful we are. We could put you away for 10 years if we actually charge you. So you better stop what you're doing, in so many words. So it's people fighting that energy, and really, countries like Thailand, which had extremely strict cannabis laws just 10 years ago. It was another country you could serve 10 years in prison for getting caught with hashish or with cannabis in any amount over, like 5 or 10 grams or something absurd like that. So the fact that they're even considering it in Malaysia, I believe, which had the like death penalty or life in prison, zero tolerance signs all over the airport, like nobody's business. Like, we have no problem hanging you. These are extreme perspectives and views, and those narratives are controlled by controlling the information. So really what you're doing, sacrificing and moving away from your friends and family to live in Mexico so you can continue to translate and share this information at the risk of maybe never being able to go back to your country without potentially serving jail time. That's a real thing, man. What you're doing is serious. And we're all standing here behind you saying, great job. This is important work. And the Japanese people deserve this plant as much as anyone on this planet. These are crimes against humanity that these governments are perpetrating, keeping plants like this from people that are so healing, medicinal, and preventative, let alone the pharmaceutical industry couldn't come up with something like this if they tried. A drug that works for like 80% of your ailments, and the side effect is euphoria. Oh my God. I'm not sure what the problem is.
Hey, the other aspect, we talked about the science and the academics, and again, Japanese culture and Japanese science has contributed so much in the landscape and the architecture of what we know today. But there's the other thing that Japan has excelled in, which is business, and one of the major instrument manufacturers that sells a whole suite of instrumentation to do cannabinoid measurement, terpene measurement, heavy metal measurement, and everything. If you could basically use it in a cannabis analytical laboratory, Shimadzu sells it. So there's a big Japanese company that sells instrumentation all over the world. And they, they're one of the instrumentations that companies that said, we're going to embrace this opportunity, and they renamed their HPLC the Cannabis Analyzer. They renamed it, So, I mean, they're totally embracing this market. They have brochures up on their website, and that in some high rise in Tokyo, they're counting all their money that's coming in from all the instrumentation that they're selling into the cannabis industry. So I think between the science and the academics and the business side of things, hey, they can't play this game that cannabis is bad anymore, right? Because this is really fucking happening. And it takes millions of dollars to do the science. And these guys are making billions of dollars selling all this HPLC and GC equipment. So
those are solid points, Mark. You're helping build the armor here. I'm telling you, that is armor.
It's about time I did something useful. This Garcia crown really works, you know, when I put it on.
I saw that right away. That's awesome. What do you think of that, Karu?
Yeah, like the CMAS thing, like CMAS company, right? Actually, like this people from this photo industry society in Japan, we know that, and we like wonder like how, you know, how we can still promoting like propaganda like from the, you know, the government do that. I don't understand it. And one more thing, sorry to add this, but like yesterday, like Bloomberg, like that's a media, right? Like a very big media, like reported like our government, like we have like government pension investment fund or something. So they actually bought a lot of stocks from Canada, and you know, like it's related to like cannabis market, like cannabis industry. But once our government like told us like we like people, citizens cannot buy the stocks about the company because it's pushing the like illegal market or something. I don't know how it works, but you know, even the government like restricted us buying the stocks, and it says on the news TV, they do it, you know, and I think it seems like they make a lot of money from the fund. I mean the buying stocks and selling stocks. It's like I don't know what's going on, you know.
It's called a hypocrisy.
Definitely. Yeah, that's the word.
So in your education, Karu, are you mentioning things like this to the Japanese people? Are you showing these hypocrisies that, oh, there's this monster company that's actually named one of their analyzers, the Cannabis Analyzer, and sort of promoting and pointing, oh, there's these guys that have been studying CBD for the last 30 years in our universities. If cannabis has no medical use, then what are these respectable, large companies doing engaging in cannabis business? Have you been doing this?
Wait, what was the question? Wait. Oh, so I'm telling the like
are you telling the Japanese people of these connections, of all these studies that have been done, the Japanese scientists, the companies that are building instruments?
Yeah, I mean, not only me, but you know, there's another organization. That organization like keep telling about the medical facts, and you know, like the company, like Japanese company doing this, and actually we have like another like Japanese company like doing the lighting stuff for like agriculture. So the organization, like the other organization, like keep telling about that kind of stuff. So well, gradually people are like knowing like this isn't, you know, like not like really bad things to do it. Like cannabis is like that bad. Why did I answer you correctly?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's no wrong answers here, man. You're doing amazing. This is a safe place. Don't feel nervous.
I got pretty nervous right now, by the way.
Your brothers. This is chill.
Yeah, no, much respect, Karu. You are a warrior, and you're making, I think you're making a difference. You're certainly helping me understand more fully how much more work we have to do around the world. So hang in there. And yeah, thank you, Marcus, for bringing this man on our show here today. Blessed be.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask a question. A lot of people are bringing this up in the chat. And I always see cool Japanese people all dreaded out at reggae concerts in Jamaica. I got to wonder, like, how important has reggae music been to the education of the Japanese people in pointing and showing the light? Like, you must have been like, these guys don't seem like murderers.
Right. Well, probably not my generation, but like a little bit older generation, like they like reggae music, like the, you know, Well, I totally forgot about this legend. Oh my God, Bob Marley. So some people realize that the cannabis isn't bad because of him. So yeah, music like influences a lot like among us too.
Bob was the ultimate cannabis activist, and he was very kind of like, he was very much like, I think I would compare him to Skunkman Sam in the sense of just completely in your face, completely pro getting high, no shame, no apology, just like 100% like, this is greatness. And the first person I really ever met that I saw do that on like an almost like shocking level of honesty was Skunkman Sam. He was the first person I literally heard be like, I love getting high. I love it. And it was kind
I
of like,
still do.
I know. It's just, you know what, back then though, 20 years ago, you didn't hear people say that. They were like, everyone was using the medical thing. They were like, oh yeah, it's medicinal. And Sam was just like, everyone should have it. Of course you should have it if you're sick, but of course you should have it if you're healthy too. Why do I have to get sick to wait till I get cannabis? That's ridiculous.
My goal has always been everybody, everywhere, for any reason.
That's a reason.
Howdy, John.
How you doing, Sam? I say I like to get high too. I really like getting high. It's one of my favorite things. I wake up in the morning. It's the first thing I do. Is I was like, boom. I smoked a joint this morning. I said I did 5 dabs before 6 a.m. Morning, everybody. I finally got my volume back. Was running around. Great fighting. Great what you're doing. I love that. Anybody out there who's fighting for cannabis and for this plant has got mad respect, and I'm there all the way, man. It's like, boom. You need anything? Reach out. I just love this plant, so I love talking about it, and anything I can help, I'm always here. It's just like everybody in this panel. Bong rip.
Love you, Johnny B. In the house. Johnny B and I have not got to hang out much in the last year with this pandemic, and we used to hang out a lot. It would be like
daily.
Yeah, like daily, like even like multiple times a day. And he does
I'll
not
meet you here. I'll see you later.
He does not live close. He's literally like over an hour away from where I live, like an hour and 20 minutes even. So one day the global pandemic will end and we'll be able to get back to seeing each other in person. Not every day, but I miss my trips to Amsterdam. I miss hanging out with Skunkman Sam. I miss going to Barcelona and seeing everyone that comes to town for the Cannabis and for the Masters of Rosin and for the Legends of Hash. And just all of those things are just so much fun. I miss going to the island of Jamaica. I miss all my Jamaican friends and listening to reggae music and making hash outdoors under the sun, like worrying about the ice melting and kind of trying to find a shady area. That's a hot country, man. I'm telling you. Water hash is not the most intuitive thing, especially if you want to make it in the jungle, a 2-hour hike in. You don't think about this, but have you ever thought about how hot you can get carrying ice? I have, and let me tell you, it's very hot. Unless you're Wally Duck from Australia, who's used to plus 45 Celsius in the summertime, and he just carries the ice on his head like it's nobody's business. It impressed all my Jamaican friends, let me tell you, while the rest of us got soft fast. Johnny knows.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot of fun.
These are places we should be linking up. Don't you think, Sam?
Well, I have some news actually, because I just got done doing the Emerald Cup judging, and Tim Blake made us aware there will be a December Harvest Cup for the Emerald Cup in Northern California. We will be getting together and meeting up. So I hope to see some of you there, needless to say, because that is very exciting news. But Karu, I was wondering, you're in Mexico now, and of course things are working on changing there in Mexico. So is there anything from that you can use from what Mexico is doing to change its laws to help you with what you're doing in Japan?
Well, I'm thinking like, like getting the industry, like it's not like legal yet to sell or buy or anything yet. until next year. So, but if I get into like this industry and, you know, like be a good guy, you know, like giving back to the community from what I got, you know, probably I can like promote like using cannabis, like having passion for cannabis use or like growing or selling, you know, that's gonna like make a difference. Like if I do it, I can still be a normal guy. I can still be a good guy. This is what I'm doing in Mexico, you know, so that I can, you know, tell this isn't bad to like old, not all, but, you know, like Japanese people. That's what I'm thinking right now, by the way.
No, the reason to go to Mexico is Mexican food.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well,
and
it's
the
helping
weather.
Karu stay out of jail.
I always like the cheap kilos of Oaxacan herb, but that's just me. I'm always making hash wherever I go. So being able to buy some nice cheap kilos of some actually beautifully grown cannabis, throw them in the bag, wash them up. That's that just
Well,
makes sense.
Marcus, the other day, Wade and I were in a clubhouse room talking with a dentist who I think lives right on the border in Mexico, who's having difficulty getting like high CBD oil without having to pay through the nose to get what Epidiolex. So she was asking Wade for some hints on, you know, how to make a home CBD remedy for epileptic children.
Well, she'd have to access the cultivars first and foremost. Then it's just a matter of growing them. She's got the advantage of the sun being so close to the equator. It's probably not going to have a hard
Yeah,
time.
I forget what she said, Wade, if she had access to hemp, but I thought she did, and she was looking for how you would make it at home, I think.
Rosin is the maybe fastest, easiest way. And then with rosin, you can dilute it out to a tincture or whatever it is that you want to deliver.
Yeah, true that, Sam. Her situation is she didn't have access to large quantities of material. And yeah, cultivar selection was a bit of an issue as well. I pointed her to a few places where she might be able to find seeds that would be appropriate for children with epilepsy. And yeah, walked her through some basic home scale type production techniques. Because again, at this point, the market there, she just did not have access to large quantities of material at this point.
Well, that sucks. I hate hearing that. I hate that there's never a shortage of people growing thousands of acres for the gray market to smuggle and ship and do all these things. It would just be good if that was taken care of. It really.
I don't know if you've heard, Mark, but the federal government and state government has reported an 80% reduction in smuggling marijuana from Mexico to America that got seized. In other words, homegrown has pretty much replaced the market, except for a small amount.
Well, they still grow it. They just don't export it to America anymore. It goes the other direction. It's like even in Colombia, they export their weed to other countries.
And they're also going to allow for individual plants too. So you'll be able to grow your own, I'm aware of, yes?
Yeah, Alice was saying in the room the other day that the only, you know, large quantity cannabis that they have access to in Brazil is brickweed. And that sounds like what used to come from Mexico. So maybe it's going from Mexico down to Brazil now.
Got to go somewhere.
Or Colombia.
Hey, what are the prices of cannabis and hash in Japan?
Oh, that's pretty expensive. I don't know much about like hash price in Japan, but the gram of weed over there is like $50.
$50 for a gram?
Yeah,
For a
USD.
gram?
Yeah, gram of weed. Yeah, gram, just a gram. And
Gotta
you don't
love
know what you're
gold
gonna get. You
prices.
don't. Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, guys, I'm on a way to go test a huge greenhouse. I just got a phone call a minute ago. I've been wanting to do this for like a while, so I'm gonna head out and have a good day. Maybe I'll catch you a little bit later when I get there. If I can't go live on the phone, I will. It's like 100 lighter, and I get to go take a look at it. So I will talk to you guys soon.
Have
Peace out,
fun.
Johnny B.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace, Johnny.
$50 a gram. Hash must be like, I don't even know.
250.
Oh, it got to be way more than 150, dude. It takes like 5 grams of weed to make a gram of hash.
Yeah.
If it's good weed. If it's bad weed, it could take 10 grams. That'd be a $500 gram of hash. Imagine what 6-star bubble hash would sell for in Japan.
For the
Whoa,
$1,000 gram.
that
let's
is,
say.
Yeah, you're gonna be rich like pretty quickly, but it's illegal though.
yeah, no doubt. Holy, that's seriously illegal. I'll tell you, the price of products in different countries where it's illegal sort of leans towards just how illegal it is. And wow, $50 a gram for weed. So let's do the math on a pound of cannabis.
I know people who used to move Thai weed to Japan, like multiple kilos of Thai weed at a time. And it was selling for, $100 a Thai stick back in those days when they were costing 50 cents in Bangkok. And what's really crazy is they told me the only trouble in Japan was that all their customers were Japanese mostly, and they had a tendency when they got busted to roll on who delivered it to them.
So that business ended pretty quick, I'm guessing.
Yeah, but it had a big price to pay if there was problems.
Well, that's $22,700 for a pound of cannabis sold at $50 a gram. Oh, you're muted, Karu, if you had something to say.
Yes, I muted. No, I just got surprised. Like, that's a lot of money, and at least, I sell like 50 USD, but it's like a minimum, and you don't know what you're gonna get.
So people are paying more.
Exactly.
Depending on quality as well as accessibility, but it still shows that prohibition doesn't work and that cannabis is still there. Cannabis is still grown there. Even quietly. So do hydroponic companies sell knowing that people are growing cannabis, or is it just kind of kept quiet underground like it used to be in the United States? We used to talk tomatoes. We couldn't talk cannabis specifically to the grow shop, so we would talk tomatoes. So a lot of tomato growers.
Yeah, we have tomato growers, and actually there's like shops for like hydroponic things. Like generally like growing things, but well, that was like, I think that was like a few years ago, but grow shop like got raided because the shop owner like secretly taught like how to grow weed, like how to use like the machines and equipment to their customers. And now he's like, I think he got charged some kind of crime because he is pushing someone to grow weed over there. So just selling equipment, so it's like a very, very risky business these days in Japan.
He was cultivating cultivators.
I'm not sure like he was cultivating, but he just supplied equipment.
Yeah, no, like, how you can grow tomatoes. What he was growing was cultivators. He was creating,
right. Exactly.
cultivators. So yeah,
makes sense right now.
I one of my mentors, Ron Hickey, who owned a hydroponic store in Winnipeg after he had just done 6 years in prison for growing cannabis, where I'm from originally, used to be pretty harsh with its laws against cannabis as well. And they put my friend in jail for a very long time. He did a 6-year and then he did a 5-year. So he did 11 years in a federal prison for cannabis. I'll have to get Ron on here one time to tell some of his stories. He'll blow your minds. You just won't even. He's like, him and Skunkman Sam could go on with each other for hours, I'm certain. But yeah, he had a hydroponic store. And when I was very young, I went into his store and I was like, hey, like, I'm trying to grow some tomatoes. And he's just like, tomatoes, eh? Why don't we just talk about what I know we're talking about? Weed. And then he was just like, took me down to the basement of his hydro shop and just basically like, started to educate me on, you know, herb and how to grow it and how to take care of it and how to love it and, you know, how to cure it and all of these different things that I just really would probably not be who I am today without all of that mentoring from him in the early days, taking me around to all these different grows that he had built. And yeah, it was very unique times. We'll have to get Ron on Hash Church one of these days.
But look what you've done. Look what you've created. And look at this tool that you've created. And Karu, this is a now new tool that you and your Japanese activists can now share this information and go to every Apple store and everything and post this video on those little videos so that people, when they walk by, see and go, wait, who's that Japanese person speaking about cannabis in Japan? You know, come on, people. We need to spread this knowledge far and wide and by every guerrilla means necessary so that this man and what they're trying to do there can break through those barriers. Because somebody was in chat earlier saying just any type of cannabis talk in Japan is crazy talk to those in the older generation. So these are ways, or hopefully, or what ways would you suggest to break through the willful ignorance of the older Japanese person watching this today, Karu?
Well, for older Japanese person, oh my God, I have no idea, but definitely they care about like their health, right? Like their healthcare things, and they like money. I mean, majority of us, like people in Japan, majority is like older people, so we need to like grip their hearts, like definitely for changing the laws. So definitely keeps talking about healthcare and health stuff regarding cannabis. Yeah, that's, you know, it's a pretty basic thing, but that's very important for sure. What, did I answer you? I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I mean, can is there any, like, can we flood the health minister with information? I mean, what can we do to help you internationally break through? Is there anything that you suggest that we can do, or any outreach specifically, or just sharing this information so people are aware of what you're doing?
Well, we need definitely some influence from foreign countries, and, you know, like you said, like health something, well, government work, you know, because we don't think we can change like from inside, like by ourselves, because of like the propaganda that's very, very huge. So, and I don't know, we want like all you guys are from like non-Japanese people telling like banning cannabis is like anti-moral. I mean, it's not like not for people, you know. So I just want keep telling that from outside. I mean, even though if it's like not like Japanese, like English, like people can understand English too. Sometimes, not a lot of people though. So yeah, just pushing us. Please push us. Give us like a lot of pressures.
Are pharmaceutical cannabis products available in Japan by prescription from a doctor?
I don't think so. Well, we used to have that. We used to have like a medicine made with cannabis. I don't know what it's called, but we had that before. But right now, I don't think anyone used that.
Do you think it is possible?
Well, it's kind of interesting because one of the really big Japanese pharmaceutical companies, I can't remember the name right at this moment, invested huge amounts of money into GW Pharmaceuticals.
Takeda.
Okay, and so it's funny that the straight pharmaceutical companies in Japan are investing in new and by GW Pharmaceuticals, they're talking about grown from plants, not synthetically made in a laboratory or anything. So it's funny how they can play both sides of the line.
Karu, is it possible for a Japanese patient who has tried everything pharmaceutically and it does not work. Is there a way for them to petition their government to import cannabis or a naturopathic medicine from another country like Canada or Israel or the Netherlands per se? This is something we're trying here in the United States, since the program that I talked about earlier with Robert Randall is only down to currently one patient. So soon that will be no more patients here that receive even medical marijuana. So is there a way for a patient to go through your medical system to petition the Japanese government to then import that medicine and therefore break that stereotype?
Well, you ask me, is there any way, right? But I am not sure if we can do like even like if people like petition for it. I don't think it's gonna happen, but this helps definitely. This may help a lot. Like we had like this guy like who has like a cancer and he was like a stage 4. He was actually using like cannabis for himself. He grew by himself for he grew it for himself, but after he got arrested for like possession of cannabis, he stopped using it. He couldn't use it, right? Because he was in the jail. So we know that story, but still, we ban the cannabis plant. So I think it's very difficult even if people like a lot of people like from outside Japan ask for that, like do some petition for that. So, well, I don't know. Wait, I'm not sure like if I gave you answer correctly, but
you answered as best as you can. You're just not sure, and I understand. One of the things that we used here in America was what you're talking about is using patients' testimony as a arrow, by basically telling people, look at this person at this age who is using this cannabis, and using their heartstrings, tugging on the heartstrings, showing them that this person could have gotten used. So the person you are speaking toward, are they considered a hero in Japan, or are they considered an outcast because they were using medicine and were arrested for it?
The person is outcast right now. Yeah. Well, some people in Japan like trying to like, well, actually there's a film about him, but not a lot of people like interested in it somehow. I mean, it's so sad though.
Can you reference that film so that we could be educated on it? So
Sure.
We could share it so people could also take this and use it as a tool to educate other Japanese people?
Sure. I mean, I'm gonna share the link in the chat here.
And we can share that in the Facebook. Yes, sir, Bubba.
Yep, thanks.
Is there any difference around hemp versus cannabis in Japan?
Sorry for background noise. So is there any difference? Yes, actually, there's a licensed farmer for hemp. Actually, we have it, but it's really difficult to get the license, and I don't think like a lot of people can get it these days. And the difference between hemp and cannabis, we still use the hemp for like making something like clothes and stuff, and we still consume like hemp seeds for like health care item. I don't know, but I mean, lately like CBDs are like getting popular in Japan, so it's kind of getting better about the situation, but still people not a lot of people do not know like hemp and the cannabis is like the same plant.
But is the definition still cannabis variety with less than 0.3% weight THC? Right. So think of it like this. If you grow an acre of that hemp at 0.3%, and let's just use a round number because it's easy to understand the division. Say we get 1,000 pounds of dried plant material from that acre. That's 3 pounds of THC per acre, right?
Right.
So that's a lot of THC to be growing in a country that you can get in a whole lot of trouble for THC. What happens to that THC in that hemp that's grown in Japan? It's got to be going somewhere, right?
They burn it.
I guess
They
so. They
They
ban it?
destroy the flowers immediately.
Oh.
I'm
Do they get
aware.
$500 a gram
No,
for?
no. Wait. So when they extract it, there's THC commingled in the extract with CBD. You can't just burn it.
They're not
No, I'm
extracting it.
talking
They're
about-
using it for hemp.
I'm talking about the hemp
what
flowers
Sam
in
says.
Japan. They burn the flowers and then they use the fiber for traditional kimonos and other Shinto spiritual uses. But there, as far as I'm aware, because this is from an article a few years back that I had read specifically on these handful of women who are they're traditional craftspeople, which, as we know, craftspeople in Japan have their own elevated status. So they're as stated, there's only one particular grow, and it's a traditional way that they harvest, and it follows their tradition. But I was aware that they just cut the tops and burn it. I understand what you're talking about specifically, scientifically. I was just referencing specifically that regional's growth, because even the game Ghost of Tsushima, which I play on PlayStation 4, in certain areas where you go on the island, there's traditional hemp growing in the game because it was traditional to Japan. So it's there, it continues to be there, but unfortunately, as Karu was saying, there's so much misinformation now that the traditional Japanese doesn't know that they're even the same plant, correct?
It is correct. Yeah.
If you look in the chat, you'll see an article I posted about traditional hemp. But this was a half an hour ago. And I also posted one about an interview with Dr. Shoyama, who was a pioneer in cannabis chemistry.
Interesting that a country that was so against cannabis would have so many chemistry pioneers in cannabis.
And thousands of year history of using cannabis, just in different circumstances.
Right. Yeah. Fascism sucks.
But thankfully, we have warriors like Karu out there who are actually working toward changing it. And we need more like you doing what you're doing so that we can break down the barriers, so that, many years from now, people won't know what you had to deal with, because it's wrong. It's a shame that you are shamed out of your own country for doing what is historically part of its tradition.
So do you know Japanese citizens that sit in jail today because they used cannabis and they're in there for a long time?
Yes, I mean, there's a lot, like a lot of people still like got caught because of like possess or growing it. Definitely a lot. I see like a news article like every day, like someone got caught.
How about any friends of yours?
A friend of mine, I don't think I have, I have no one. I probably my friends are like okay somehow, but yeah.
Well, again, when you consider the business aspects, if people are getting in trouble and people are getting busted, there's a bunch of people making money off that. And the people who make money off that are the testing companies, because now people have to piss into a bottle, and all the attorneys and the courts. And I don't exactly know how prison is handled in Japan, but certainly here in the United States, there's lots of industries that benefit from cannabis prohibition, and they need cannabis to be illegal in order for their businesses to thrive. And they don't want the laws to change, which again is quite hypocritical.
Karu, is there a possibility? One of the things that we found is a powerful tool, which you may have seen at Oaksterdam University, is Chris Conrad and Mickey Norris created a prisoners educational campaign where they would actually compile the names and pictures and the stories of those who have been arrested here in the United States, and then they made it into a wall that would travel around. So they would just take a little travel wall, and where they would go, they would put the faces so that people could see the faces of these people and know their names and know their stories and know why they're in jail and for how long they're in jail. We found that was a great educational tool to make people aware of the injustice, because it puts a face to the issue. It's no longer just about the issue. Here are hundreds of faces with stories that could be your brother, your sister, your cousin, your nephew. You know, we found these were very effective tools. So we might consider start building a database of those, and then also then making a mirror back to Japan and say, look at your sons and your daughters that you have put in jail over this plant. And this is what, and then add up all their years. So you can see that there's hundreds of years there that people are serving all over a simple plant that is part of your tradition. It's shameful. And you should use that education potentially, if you want. That is a tool that you could use to shape, to show them the injustice that traditional Japanese are experiencing today.
That sounds pretty good. We have to tell the story about, the people got caught about just possessing or growing cannabis. That sounds nice.
I mean, one of the things why we even know about how harsh Japanese laws are today is because a musician, Paul McCartney, got busted many years ago with a lot of cannabis, and he did time in Japan. So we're well aware of the injustices just from him alone, but he got off light because he was a celebrity. If he was traditional Japanese, he would still probably be in jail today. Yes.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah, that's possible. He's a celebrity, that's why he was okay. But normal people like us, like me, I don't think so. I don't think I can get out like that soon.
Not for that much cannabis, because when he caught with like a quarter pound or something, or a pound of weed, it was significant. Mark, Dr. Sheldon, do you remember what he got busted with, or how much? It wasn't like an ounce.
No, it was just his personal stash in his suitcase. It was quite embarrassing how little it was, which tells you the tolerance level. Just even head stash is against the law. Yeah.
Well,
Totally.
he manned up. He did his time, and the other thing was that he didn't ask one of the stage crew or anybody else to carry it for him. I mean, he was a man about it, and if I remember right, though, part of his plea agreement and how helped him get out early was he made an anti-drug promo for the Japanese government. I think so.
That sounds about right.
Well, we've given him a lot of things to think about, and again, just the hypocrisy that's to Japan. I mean, this happens everywhere. And what can they learn? I think you said it, ATN. He's like where we were like 23, 24 years ago, maybe in some states. Certainly California and Colorado were a little more progressive, and other states. But if you just look at the greening of the US map in the last 25 years, you could see that the train has left the station and there's no turning back. And we were talking about this on Clubhouse the other day with Michael Backus. He thinks it's very important that the UN's treaty has now delisted. Am I saying this right, ATN? They've removed cannabis from their
Schedule
list?
4. It was a Schedule 4, which meaning that it had no medicinal use, and it was removed from that on December 2nd, 2020. So now, for the first time in the world since the 40s, etc., medical marijuana is legal across the world, and countries can use this UN charter to show that
Right.
it is now legal internationally medically.
And that changes the financials. It changes like banking. It changes the way the world works according to when it deals with cannabis, right? I mean, is that real? And will we end up seeing that at the consumer level?
In time, but I mean, we haven't even seen, the DEA is still in denial and has not even put out a statement regarding it, because the rest of the world looks to the DEA as kind of the ruling party, because they're the ones that usually have the outside influence that comes into countries with, you know, military, et cetera, et cetera. So their silence has been absolutely deafening. So these are moments where countries are seeing, like, you know, Mexico and others are being emboldened by this change internationally. And I think Karu can actually take this into Japan and educate them on the laws of change, and what you thought you knew is no longer what we know. And because it is medically accessible, it is now against international law for Japan to possibly prosecute. I don't know. These are things that individual countries now have to exercise and find out at the international level. But we are seeing other countries, as stated, being very
international countries make the final legal decision, Chen. It's absolutely the way it is. They can follow the UN suggestion, or they can say, screw you, UN, and continue to put them in the electric chair if they have a single seed.
But there already has been importation of cannabis from country to country. That's already been happening kind of around the language of the existing treaty. I think the change in the treaty now makes that compliant. You
Yes,
can.
but Mark, it's always been for medical use, not for recreational. International trade.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you make the distinction when it's just bulk material. So,
well, like if I stub my toe, that's medical.
no, I get that, but I mean, if you're talking about importing, whether it's finished goods or oil or biomass, I don't think you would be doing that. But I think it would be, finished packaged goods done in a white label, facility in a place where labor is inexpensive, being exported to the market that has the money, i.e., Western Europe and the United States eventually.
It's probably decided by both the exporter and importing country how it is, because I've heard of it going in bulk to Germany, for example, from Canada.
That's right. Yes, and eventually Japan. So I think maybe 10 years from now, Japan will catch up with the rest of the world that, this is an international commodity similar to, I guess, tobacco in that, respect. It's grown, it's processed, it's made into products, and people in all countries want them. And there shouldn't be laws that would discriminate against access. Only and it's interesting that you say medicinal. I mean, again, I don't know how would they be able to control that? Would they be able to control that down to the retail level?
There probably has to be a doctor's script. You probably have to buy it from a pharmacy or a supplier of a pharmacy, or it's professional like every other pharmaceutical drug you buy.
Right. Well, that's what we have in Pennsylvania is totally medical, and that's what we have is cards, and it's good at dispensary, yada yada yada. But I mean, what? Yeah, I just wouldn't know how they would keep it. If some states are like recreational and medical, how would they segregate? It would have to be a.
I honestly don't know. I know here in Holland, if you have a doctor's prescription, you can buy Bedrocan weed from various apotheques. And if you want to travel to other countries in Europe with your medicine, it's legal under the Scheveningen Agreement. So you contact the Office of Medicinal Cannabis, and they write a letter explaining what's going on, and you can do it legally.
Hey, Mark, in Massachusetts, the CCC requires a certain threshold for recreational and medical to be held at all times behind in back of house. So when you come in, there's a different register system that is accounted for recreational as there is for medical. And you see different sales associates for those specific lines. And there's a different menu. There could be things on the medical menu that may not be available on the recreational menu. And there's a different dosage requirement as well in the state of Massachusetts. You can't have above 5 milligrams per dose. So if you have a gummy, let's say, it can't be above 5 milligrams per that dose. Now you can put 25
That's in the recreational side, Colin?
Yeah, on the rec side. Now on the medical side, it could be, I think it goes up to 100 or 100 milligrams or something. You could get in there. But what's interesting about that is that when you move over to tinctures, the sky's the limit. Like as much as I could fit in there, I could.
Yeah. So what a bunch of meaningless bullshit.
Well,
right?
it falls the black quick in terms of the rules, because you're like, wait, I'm restricted really heavily here, but over here, like, it's free range. You can really formulate, for instance, for the medical side in a particular way that is a lot more sophisticated. So it encourages people to actually have a medical card. You save money, like in any state, over the taxes. There's benefits, but
you save money by going to the gas station and getting yourself some Delta 8 gummies and Delta 8 cartridges, and then you're all set.
I
right?
guess.
And that's what you think cannabis is in the cannabis unfriendly environments.
Yeah, that's a totally different one, but I think that's how we deal with it. Or I've dealt with it in this state, and I think that's, to your point, I think there's in non-cannabis friendly states, you have your Delta 8s and you have your gas station buys, and that's shaping their knowledge and their understanding of where cannabis is for them. But we have thresholds, and I would imagine when PA does its thing to go rec, it's going to be similar. That's what I've seen. How does California deal with it currently? Etienne, do you guys have these thresholds? Are you guys dealing with any of that kind of stuff? Or is it just simply, this is rec and this is medical? How does it, is it even a thing out there?
Yes, but Etienne would be a better one to answer that question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What were you drinking? No, I'm just joking.
Coconut water. Sorry, my wife was asking. I was having a conversation with my wife.
I was asking, in the state that I've been operational in, there was thresholds for recreational and medical that you had to kind of abide by. Do you
dosage
have
limits
in doses? Everything from dosing and then all the way to the amount that you have for retail. Like, there has to be a certain threshold to account for patients versus recreational patients, if you will.
There has been a distinction, i.e. for edibles in California, but for the most part, for the flower and everything else, it's pretty just normalized over the counter. But there are availability of 1,000 milligram options for medical, specifically in California. But again, these are just arbitrary made up numbers decided by somebody out of fear. Same thing of the 0.03% THC in hemp.
And they're going to go away, don't you think, Etienne?
It should, because what I use is different than what you use. And my medical use, especially for somebody who is going through a severe medical situation, it needs to be a higher dose, we have found, to be effective. And we found once the laws changed in 2018, there was a whole swath of edible options we lost in California because they were in the higher level of THC. And you have to also understand that all these products prior were made by patients for patients because there were not a product on the market that met their medicinal need. So there were 1,000 milligram edibles. There were, you know, exceedingly large THC amounts that unfortunately recreational users found out by accident or had adverse reactions, etc. But those medical users still pine and wish they could have access to those older, higher THC edibles. And what we have seen here in the United States, Karu, is we have a pushback by politicians. And one of our oldest politicians, Dianne Feinstein here in California, is pushing to lower THC limits below a man-made threshold. She has no understanding of what I use, etc. But me and my other veterans all use high THC edibles, medibles. I use concentrates because it helps me with the various symptoms of my post-traumatic stress disorder and my Gulf War syndrome. So for me, it is very helpful and useful. Whereas if a normal person who had never experienced THC ingested what I ingest on a day's time, it would be beyond uncomfortable. So there has to be a balance. And what Colin is speaking to is there is not a balance here domestically. And in each one of our states, we're dealing with current prohibitions to lower THC limits. We dealt with it last year in California, and we were able to get that away. However, right now in Florida and in other states, they're actively trying to push lower THC thresholds out of fear. So even though we've moved things exponentially here, Karu, we still have politicians and those that either benefit or want to benefit from this prohibition continuing to use lies, outright misinformation, and confusion, and using these kind of a downtime by being quiet about it in their states, trying to do it quietly so that they don't get the pushback or the yell from the community at large, which of course Florida is trying to mobilize, but the politicians change the laws quicker sometimes than the populace can educate themselves on the law. Sorry, that may sound confusing, but we just have a great pushback, and we need to be constantly diligent even here right now, so that because right now it's Kevin Sabet and Smart, who is the largest anti-prohibitionist organization currently going. They are actively going around pushing Colorado, Florida, etc. So they've created an organization of prohibitionists, Karu, that are going out to push lies and misinformation to change the laws currently, because we have been so effective in changing the laws. Now they want to make up lines in the sand to say, oh, well, above 15% THC is now the danger and is now the big spooky evil boogeyman, which is not the case. Yes, THC can be abused. Yes, people cannot handle high THC, but we can't lump everybody into the same use, because we, the medical people, are going to suffer. So we, the medical people, are going to be the ones with the loudest, fuck you, no, we're not going to take this. We have to fight it. And we have to go back out to our educators and to our constituency, our politicians, and make them aware that this is a lie, this is manipulation, and you're being manipulated. So the work still needs to be there right now, because the laws are changing this week in Florida, and as well as they're trying to in Colorado. So people, if you're watching and you're in those states, get active, find a local organization, get a petition, call your constituency, make them aware to challenge these laws, that they do not deserve to be happening. Sorry, it's 2021, but shit's still happening. Can't sit on our asses and do nothing, people. Get active.
Yeah, I'd like to jump in and take it back over to Japan. And I was thinking about ways that you might be able to create messaging to change public perception so that people more fully understand what cannabis could be doing for folks. And you observed that the Japanese culture is heavily there's a lot of folks who are elders. And there's a number of conditions that many elders are subject to that cannabis can be very helpful for. Arthritis comes to mind. Certainly cancer. and some of the effects of cancer treatments. And in the same way that I think it was Etienne who suggested that you put together a wall, if you will, of photographs of people who were in jail over cannabis. You could also do the same thing about educating folks around persons who are dealing with a condition like arthritis or epilepsy, and that it might be a benefit for their condition, because it does work. It's really, it's part of why I'm so fervent about my love for this plant, is I've seen over the years what it can do for so many different people in so many different situations that have to do with their health and their sense of well-being and their joy of living, if you will. Yeah, that's just a thought. And personalizing an issue like cannabis prohibition is what changes people's minds, because it opens their heart to understand the predicament of the folks around them. Not everyone enjoys full health for whatever reason, but personalizing things helps people open their minds, and that opens their hearts. And that's how you change people's perceptions of this plant. Thank you.
Karu, I would also suggest utilizing and reaching out to your veterans. There are veterans who have served in international conflicts around the world. And we have found that veterans' voices, because we use cannabis, because we have tried every other pharmaceutical use out there, and we have not found the help that we have found in cannabis, as well as other psychedelic plants. Again, cannabis is more of a palliative for the day-to-day, but we also know that mushrooms, as well as other psychedelics, are very helpful for dealing with the post-traumatic stress that people have experienced. So do not neglect the veterans' voices, because they are very strong, because Japan loves and respects its warriors, of which you are one, but those who have served in combat hold another special eye in their they're held on their own pedestal, so to say. So don't forget to actually lean on them as well, because they will speak up, because they have used and want to use cannabis. So,
and they love their mushrooms. Japanese people love mushrooms. So again, there's history here.
And you
to
guys
draw.
love your records too, man. Incredible. There used to be the most incredible record collections ever in the world in Japan, and you must know what I'm talking about. So you're really lucky to have that as well. That culture is thick.
Thank you, guys. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
What is are psychedelics, mushrooms, LSD as illegal as in psilocybin mushrooms? Are they as illegal as cannabis in Japan, or are they more tolerated?
Well, it's illegal right now. It's illegal. Yeah, but I don't know, back then, like more than 2 decades ago, it was like illegal. I mean, we didn't have like any rules like consuming mushrooms. But one actor from Japan like got panicked after he ate mushroom and did something crazy shit, and now it's banned. Yeah.
Leave it to one guy to mess it up for everyone else.
Totally,
Exactly.
man.
I think
they should name the law after him.
I think a lot of law around drugs has to do with fear of how people might misuse them. And meantime, out of fear, we miss all of the potential benefit and opportunity for healing and acting sanely about the world. I mean, hello. Yeah, governments want to control people. Governments should be in service to the people, but in fact, it seems to be more about wanting to control people in the way people think.
It's a public misconception of this one guy who had a mystical event, right? I mean, what a shame.
Somebody said the gentleman actually ate mushrooms and ran into a store naked, asking for his mother.
Was she working there or for sale or what?
That was probably the most exciting thing that happened to all those spectators all day. What a wonderful thing. Humans do the craziest shit, especially on psychedelics.
Yes.
Very true, Mark.
As Art Linkletter always said, drugs do the darndest things.
What's going on? Did I miss something funny? You guys are smiling.
Yes, we were talking. Somebody posted in chat that there was a famous Japanese actor, and what happened is he stripped off his clothes and ran into a store asking for his mother, and apparently that was the the negative reaction. Whereas most people, if they saw a famous star naked, they would all be very
mushrooms
happy.
were legal up to that point, and then this happened to this guy, and now mushrooms are illegal.
So then we
whatever
were
that guy
talking about
did.
dumb shit we've done on psychedelics, which I know none of us have ever done anything out of the ordinary in any psychedelics in any way, shape, or form, right, ladies and gentlemen? No.
I'm old enough
You're muted,
to.
Marcus. We can't hear you.
I said, thank God we grew up in a time that didn't have cell phones and cameras in everyone's like pocket. Like, I have to be honest, like, I'm really happy that the technology exists and I can engage with you guys and it's all, but I'm like, the timing of it came perfect for me. I did not need this shit when I was like 16, 17, 18 years old, let me tell you.
When I think it was 16, the last time I had health class in high school, and they had like the scary drug video for us. I remember when it got to the LSD part, they showed a woman at a party, and the party had like 60s mod music playing, and it was like typical acid kind of 60s party. And she took, and they said, on LSD, you have illusions that things aren't the way they see, and next thing you know, she's on the balcony wanting to kill herself, wanting to jump off the balcony and trying to scare people to think, oh, if you take this, you're going to find the balcony at the party and you're going to teeter on the edge of it. They don't show her jumping off, but, it's just a, reenactment.
What a terrible vibe to pre-promote.
Wait, it got even better. For us in Louisiana, they showed this woman the dangers of LSD, and they showed us this movie, and this woman jumps out of a second-story window and lands on the ground and starts taking the glass and starts cutting her arms up, and the dangers of LSD. So yeah, they've used some shocking awe, needless to say, to scare us.
Maybe we saw the same video. I just turned my head away when that part
it's a
came.
real bring down when you're at an acid party and some woman does that. I mean, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, start at the ground floor first. Don't go out at the second.
We were at a drive-in movie theater at an all-night showing. They first showed the Pink Floyd movie, and then at midnight showed the Grateful Dead movie. So we had two back-to-back movies at a drive-in. Remember drive-in movie theaters? They were so much fun. You'd be able to bring lawn chairs and just a cooler full of beer and all your friends in the trunk. And yeah, it was so safe and nobody could really get hurt. It's like an environment like a Grateful Dead show. It was so much fun.
They've made a comeback lately due to COVID.
I know.
Actually. They're kind of popping up all over the country.
Etienne, just to talk about that for a second, because I'm seeing more and more announcements of festivals happening. And I guess, maybe herd immunity and the vaccination rate of the general population is just getting to the point where I guess live music is making its return, which is a wonderful thing because it's part of our culture.
Well, I said earlier, there is going to be a Emerald Cup this year. Tim announced it during the finishing of this year's competition, or pardon me, 2020's competition. So we will be in person. So I hope to see Wade and y'all and others, hopefully, and get some hugs in person because I'm vaccinated.
Oh, I'll be there. I'll go.
Fuck yeah, because I'm judging again. So I look forward to it.
I'm just going to be wandering around in the crowd.
Have you guys all gotten vaccinated yet? Has anyone gotten vaccinated here?
I got my first shot a couple days ago.
Oh,
I'm doing
congratulations.
fine so far. My next one's due April 6th.
I got my first and second shot because in California we got us designated as a emergency personnel, so we were 1A, so we were part of the initial push. So
Awesome.
I had my second shot 3 weeks ago, so I'm fully immune and I am beyond ready and happy to see people. And so wearing my mask, being responsible. I don't want to.
Why don't we take a quick poll in the chat, just because we got like 400 people watching? Have you guys gotten your shots yet? I'm just curious. I mean, I can't wait to get my shot. We're in line. I guess we'll be notified when they become available, or so to speak, or we have to go somewhere to get them. But yeah, I think the faster we get on the other side of this, hopefully it'll be all
I
in the
wish
past.
people were willing to try and look at getting healthier in the way they are looking at getting shots. And I'm not against anyone getting a shot. I personally won't be getting it. But I do like the idea of people increasing the caliber of their immune system and getting healthier and eating better foods and consuming better beverages and just sort of just taking better care of themselves, you know, like there's definitely something to be said for some of what we've learned during this. I think another thing is that, you know, we realized when COVID started, when they started telling us we got to protect our elderly community, you know, because they're more at risk. And I thought, well, what about when we were killing them with influenza for the last like several hundred years? Like a lot of people died from influenza and guaranteed they got that shit from their family members or the little girl at school who gave it to the little boy who came home and gave it to his mom, who gave it to her mom. And then, you know, so I think it's a neat idea, maybe in certain months that we are a little bit more protective. I can't even imagine that we pick these months like February and November and, you know, to go and do these huge cannabis gatherings, smoke a bunch of things together, get the cannabis cup cough, damn near die. I mean, I called it the plague one year. I got it in Spain and it was no fucking joke. But I think those things have been really good for me. And for, you know, listen, for those who are really excited to get the vaccine, you know, I would fight for your right to get it. And I would hope that you would fight for my right to say, I'll pass.
Yeah, but you know, the irony is, of course, my mom went to get hers and she got the Johnson & Johnson this week. Unfortunately, they tested her the same day and she is actually positive for COVID. So I am in the midst of, hoping and feel positive. So much love to my mom, and I hope she's healing well, and I hope she gets through this because she's 79, and her caregiver who was watching her brought it home to her, unfortunately, there in Texas. So I love you, Mom. I hope you're feeling better, and I hope you get past this. And anybody else who's dealing with it, all the best. And if you have the availability, you know, get the vaccine. If you don't want to, that's your choice. But I'm one of those. I'm proud to have gotten it. I'm happy I have it, and it's your choice. But I love science.
And you got to remember, folks, that even if you get the vaccine, you can still get another variant of COVID again. So it's probably going to prevent you from getting sick, very sick, and dying. But the vaccine is not the silver bullet that's going to cure all the problems. We as long as so many people have this, it will keep mutating and making different variants. We got to get the population down to 0, 0, 0, less.
Well, that is the key. I think the key is to also be able to have like sane conversations. Not that I want to go into a big conversations, but you know, when you asked that question, it turned into the standard internet, like, oh, getting a vaccine equals idiot. Or the other version was, oh, I thought there was a lot of intelligent people in here until I saw them say they weren't going to get the vaccine. It's easy to have a conversation about vaccines without dropping the vibe down to name calling and sort of high school arguments. We always think we're right in our decisions. That's the whole reason we make our decisions. But don't be so afraid to have conversations and maybe discover, someone else's perspective. We're not enforcing anyone to take or not take. But it is interesting how hard it is for that concept to survive in this day and age, in this world, the concept of allowing both to hold space simultaneously. Oh my goodness, you mean I have to stand on the edge of the fence instead of choosing which side the grass is greener? It's not greener on either side. It's an illusion put there by the fence. So get on the fence and don't be so fervent in your belief, or at least be more kind when you discuss with someone on the other side of that fence, rather than right to name calling. 2 seconds after you asked that question, Mark, it was just
Oh, I'm sorry to
it's
have things
okay.
digress like
Not
that.
your fault. It's not your fault. Unfortunately, it's the fault of the reactors who immediately go there. And it is a very natural human thing to go to that level, but you don't have to.
What happened to basic human tolerance? We used to tolerate each other. I accepted you for who you are, the freak that you are, the freak that you're not, But for some reason, tolerance has been lost in accepting of other people's opinions. So what if people disagree with you? Everybody has the right because they've had their experiences. And it is not my right to tell anybody anything, except I will fight for your right to say whatever the fuck you want, freedom of speech.
That's it in a nutshell. Oh my goodness.
I was just going to say, scientifically, I put vaccinations in one of the, buckets of, huge advancements that medical science has made over the years. And, I've vaccinated all my kids. I've been vaccinated. I'd like to think that the COVID vaccine would be just another of the regimen of vaccines that, you normally get, like against polio, which again, we've all but wiped out. Smallpox, right? In fact, I live close to Jennersville, where Dr. Jenner actually developed the smallpox vaccine during the Revolutionary War. But I think that another thing, just talking about the internet reaction, is like, it's like part of having a discussion is opening up your mind to learning. And as soon as you get like this partisanship that happens in either a politics discussion or a vaccine discussion or whatever, there's discussion where there's two sides like that, it just takes things into a completely unproductive area, Marcus. And I appreciate you policing the chat to let people know that, we should try to keep these discussions civil, like it were a clubhouse room, that, everybody has their own opinion. And I'm just sharing, again, as a parent and as a person, what I've done in my life. That doesn't mean that's the right thing for everybody else to do. But, again, scientifically, I look at the development of the vaccine for the COVID virus as being just an unbelievable technical achievement. And I understand how these mRNA cocktails work. And I just think it's just beautiful. There's great science that underpins it. I think it's totally safe. It's safer probably than most of the things that we normally do on a regular basis. So, remember that vaccines don't save lives, vaccinations do. And it's all about just getting that, level of the virus completely suppressed. And if you need help with the vaccine, so be it. So there, I said my thing. Sorry about that.
I'm going to lean in and thank Sam for having the cat in the hat wearing a mask in our meetings for a while, because I wear a mask every time I go out. So thank you, Sam.
It's only because I don't want to get a computer virus.
There you go. Exactly. Practice good, safe practices.
Well, it's time for a bong rip, I think. It's a little after 11. I was actually only going to go till 11 today because I'm watching my son today and my wife is away. He's been very patient on the other side of the door, but maybe we can chat a little bit more, maybe for another 25 minutes.
Well, the other thing I wanted to bring up, Marcus, not to keep on commanding conversation here, but I thought it was really interesting that Biden let a few people go who were using, I guess they had past marijuana use or whatever, cannabis use.
I saw that.
Yeah, and that's just so weird because, his vice president had admitted to smoking weed. So it's like, where do you draw the line, right? So, I mean, it's just, again, part of this hypocrisy that still exists, Kara, in our country is that association with this plant means something to some people, but something completely different to a different segment of the population. And these politicians who try to play both sides of the fence, try to placate and try to do what they can to sort of stay in the middle of these issues so they can maximize their political support. And I just thought that that was just a completely, bad move, Joe. Don't dismiss people for weed smoking. Holy shit. Didn't they? I thought they recently had a shortage of computer coders for the government because they couldn't find people that didn't smoke weed, right?
Yeah, the FBI. Yeah, the FBI was
Right.
having
What the
problems finding
fuck?
people.
All the good
I
ones
mean, this is
anyway.
just wrong. This is like, they're talking about pushing this thing through Congress and they got a Democratic Congress. Yet this is what, the guy's doing over at the White House. This is a total move that totally backfired. I know Jen Psaki's on video talking about it, trying to backstep on it. But you know what? Bad move, Joe. Wrong.
I like
It is a lot of people I know wouldn't have voted for Biden except if the choice was Biden or Trump. So they had to support Biden.
Same. On top of that, you can't forget that when the Obama administration came after my dispensary, it came out of the vice president's office, which was, of course, Joe Biden. So I understand the choice that we had. He was the guy who tried to forcefully evict me and successfully did, but then I sued him and won and beat him in federal court. So, I understand the fight. And it's more of to make you aware, people, that the fight is still ongoing. And yes, he is a staunch prohibitionist. And it's really, I agree with you. It was rather surprising, Mark, Dr. Mark, that, Kamala gets the pass as his vice president, because she was a
and there's probably
prosecutor, but not
dozens of other
others.
people, ATN, right? There's got to be dozens of other people who are either in the administration or in the support organization. It's like, okay, pass all those people, right?
And they live in a city where it's legal. It's fucking legal in DC. So
And
how
you
can
gotta
you prohibit people from using something that's legal in their own city? It's
and
just
you gotta remember that Biden truly in his heart still believes marijuana is a gateway drug. It's really that simple. That's part of the core of his belief.
and why we have to be especially vigilant now, people, and why you have to plug in and be active is we have access via Kamala, but we've got a block by the president. So already Kamala's already started to backtrack. So we looked at some political bait and switch already happening, but this is the reason why you have to stay plugged in locally, like in Florida and Colorado, where you got to change these laws before they start spreading to other states, because Kevin Sabet isn't stopping to sleep at night. He's going to sleep tomorrow and wake up and go to your next state and start passing these laws until you change his mind and make him stop, which means we've got to go into all these states where he's going and stop him. Otherwise, he's going to push and then go around and tout with his flags. Oh, look, we just changed Colorado and Florida into 15% THC. You need to do the same thing. Otherwise, you're a bad state. And we need to start naming and shaming these people and calling them out for this bullshit prohibition for what it is. But it's you who are watching that have to do this. There's only a few of us here, but it's your voice. It's whether you're going to tolerate this or not, which hopefully you're not, and hopefully you're activating your friends and making them aware of all this and plugging into local, regional, or state chapters and affecting this change and using your voice and sending emails to your constituency and writing letters on their behalf or making phone calls, because for every person who calls represents from anywhere from 100 to 1,000 people here in the United States, Karu. So it's very important for their constituency here to call and make people aware, because Joe Biden's not going to stop. If he's kicking people out of his office, just imagine what he's going to do to the rest of us. So, get to work, people. Nothing's changed, just the person in charge, but the prohibition is still the same. So
yeah, Kevin Sabet had a clubhouse room, and in order to get into the room, you had to check that you weren't going to ask any ridiculous questions. And I guess somebody who came into our room later on, right? You remember this, Colin, was saying that he got up on the stage and started challenging Sabat and was immediately thrown out of the room. But yeah, there was a room full of like 300-400 people listening to his unoriginal reefer madness, campaign. And it's just amazing that he still has a fucking audience, 300-400 people in his clubhouse listen to that shit. Unbelievable.
And why does he have a voice? Is because not enough of you who are watching are speaking up and shutting down his voice. He is being allowed to act out openly in this vacuum because none of you lazy people, are sitting back and letting him get away with this.
Well, if he did, you got thrown out of the room.
No, in the clubhouse, but you can go to these states where they're actually challenging, and he's actually going into these state houses. He's been in the UN. My friends Michael Krowitz and Amy King and Robert Kowalski are all in the UN, and he was there actually pushing those lies and misinformation, whereas this handful of activists here in the United States were actually representing the United States. That's how few of you care. That's how few of you are paying attention. That's how few of you are actually getting involved. There's a handful of people, and I know them personally, who are changing things at the UN. You could be doing that too, but you don't care enough to do anything. You'd rather sit back and say hi.
Chen, it's not that simple. Kevin Sabat makes a business out of it. It's a business for profit that he does this for. So of course he's motivated because he's got the mindset and he wants to make the money. So, we would kind of look down at cannabis people who are doing it for the money, but I say go for it. If we've got, can smother him with truth, then less people will believe his lies. We can never stop it completely because there always is people like this.
Very good point. Absolutely. You're right. He is making money off of it. So let's go hit him where it hurts, where he's trying to change it.
Yeah, well
Isn't
said.
it funny, the argument that he always makes, where he parallels big tobacco? Big tobacco is going to come in and do blah, 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 right? Well, what's big tobacco already done? Been a plague on society with this thing called, nicotine and tar that's cancer causing. Come on now. It's like, it's pot calling the kettle black.
It's really a nicotine delivery system.
I just wonder how much he's funded by the tobacco companies.
Well,
I
he
know
used to
he's
be
funded. I know
he
he's
was
funded by
really a lot.
the
but
alcohol companies, right?
Yes, but I'm not sure who funds him anymore because the tobacco companies are starting to buy into cannabis companies. So they don't
Right.
want to call their kettle black.
No, actually, they just showed up bigly, actually, a couple of weeks ago. The alcohol tobacco lobby has already put together their own group and are already lobbying for change here in the United States. And Brinks, the big truck bank people are part of that group. So there's already been reintroduction of the Safe Banking Act here in the United States so that, maybe someday I'll actually have access to a bank as opposed to being kicked out of the 38 that I've been kicked out of up to this point. So, those are the realities we deal with currently, Karu, here in the United States is financial institutions will still work for prohibition. And those like me have also been caught by the IRS through the tax code 280E a year after, of course, I beat my case, won my case against the federal government. Then, of course, they hit me with this tax code 280E, which basically makes it impossible for you to write off any of your expenses. So there is still ways that people can make your life very uncomfortable, even though we have laws in the state that allow for it. But yeah, we have to stop these anti-prohibitionists because they're not going to stop. And that's why we have to be eternally vigilant with our crusade, because they are as well, because as Sam said, they're financially tied to that reality and funded by others in realities that don't like the reality we're trying to supplant with the one that we see.
And Biden is not going to change his mind. I'm telling you, the guy is a dinosaur. We need to get somebody who's more cannabis friendly and a Democrat, maybe a liberal, whatever. I I I I just know that Biden is not our guy. He never was.
I got a good idea. Biden is also not hash church material. We need to be talking about something much more elevating than
If
Joe.
Biden wanted to come on Hash Church, I would beg you to let him on. But it's never going to ask, so don't worry.
I just don't even really feel the conversation is worth going much deeper into personally. I feel that, the people that are listening would much rather hear us talk about, processing hash or growing cannabis or getting it to express itself or explaining chemistry about it or hearing more from Karu about the activism aspect of it. Anything but American politics. That's just me.
You're probably
Thank you.
right, Marcus.
Damn it. Sorry, I brought that up again. That's 2 strikes against me. Damn it.
Well, we could talk about something that we do have a deep appreciation for, different from Joe Biden anyway. We could talk about
Well,
the cannabis and the hash.
actually, both of those things are the reason why I can't come and hang out with you right now, Marcus. And I would love nothing more than get on a plane tomorrow and hang out with you for like a week. And the reason why I can't do that is because A, there's this stupid fucking pandemic, and B, our fucking government's fucked up. So,
Yeah, would you have to do quarantine if you came back from Canada?
I don't think I think I have to pay some kind of fine or some shit like that. It's like, it's all fucked up, dude. Like I can't come. Yeah, it sucks.
You'd have to I think there's permission that you can get, but if you came here, you'd have to be in quarantine for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
It would
Let
be
me
pretty
pledge
cool
to
have
you
come
live on Hash Church, on Hash Church. As soon as I can get to Canada, as soon as I can get there, as soon as there's physically a mechanism, I will be there. I will go. I will come and I will visit.
Dude, I'm telling you,
That's
we'll have you come by the lab and
I can't wait. We've been to, how long have we talked about that, right?
It's been a long time, actually. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy that we're both
Yeah.
in these labs 5 days.
And I'll convince Colin to come with me. We'll go together.
Nice. That's what's up. Yeah, it's too bad we're not able to do stuff like that because I have done more than I've almost ever done. Like even in the last 20 years, I feel like I've done more in the last 2 here with Embark and Whistler Technologies. And no one's really been able to kind of see it. It's just been, and we haven't really been like flexing on Instagram and stuff, just little bits here and there, but we're not like operating like a post every single day. It's like more like once every 3 weeks or something, really slow, not gaining a lot of traction on that, but doing things that would be fun to be able to share. And hopefully once all of this is over, we'll be able to do that.
It's the Force, man. Like remember on Star Wars, they talked about the Force.
Oh,
Force.
absolutely.
You don't need to post anything. You have the Force.
May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you.
That's awesome. My 6-year-old son is getting dangerously close to wanting to watch Star Wars for the first time. He's been playing with like Lego Darth Vaders and stuff, and he's like kind of knows the story. And we were talking about it yesterday, and he's like, "Yeah, Dad, I think I'm almost ready for it." Such a neat thing. Such a little guy.
Cool.
I saw that shit in the theater. That's how old I am.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Growing up with your kids and seeing it all over again is so fucking cool.
Well, I did it with my first 2 kids and it was amazing. Right. And now I have this other opportunity that almost feels like he should be my grandchild, that this, like 12 years later, but indeed he's my child. And we're gonna do it again. Probably the last time I'll do it with my own child, and the next time it'll be a grandchild.
Oh, here's a kicker. I took my brother, who is blind, in 1977 to actually see Star Wars, and of course, my job was to explain what the fuck was going on. And let me tell you, to an 8-year-old trying to explain exactly what was going on as it was going on was mind-bogglingly numbing in the sense of trying to explain. There's this big hairy ape talking to this guy, and yeah, yeah. It's challenging, is all I'm saying. But love Star Wars, and I'm glad that your kids are into it and possibly getting into it. It's a fun story, you know. It's based off samurai movies, actually. It's Akira Kurosawa. I mean, if you go look at a lot of what George Lucas did there, it's a lot of retelling of great Japanese tales by a great Japanese director, just made by Americans and switched centuries altogether and put it into space. So, you know, shout out to Akira Kurosawa for being the absolute originator. There, I said it.
That's awesome. That is awesome. I see Mojave's in the chat room and on YouTube, and Joe Benny, a couple familiar faces. Pure hash joint coming soon.
Yeah, Mojave's been crushing it in Clubhouse. Oh my God, right? We've had a couple things where it's like, you know, for those who are breeding and for those who are doing what he does, he just tells it just the way it is, you know. I mean, he's just an incredible wealth of information.
Yeah, we got to get him back on Hash Church again one of these days soon. I try to send out the invites each week, but sometimes I'm last minute. You guys are the core group right here. You guys are the guys I can tell like the morning of, and you'll be like, hey, what's up? I'm here. Some of these other people need a little bit more, couple more days notice.
Well, I'm glad that Mojave has found a way to get his voice out there, because it is such a valuable voice. It's one reason I'm happy to be in business with him and Rob through Bioeconomics Group, is just their breadth of knowledge is, and what they're doing is exponential. And of course, they've been so in the underground world doing it for so many decades. Their breadth of knowledge is exponential. So we need more Dr. Marks, we need more Mojaves, we need more Rob Clarks out there. So, you know, go out there and get your education so that properly in college, so then you can go on and actually do these things proper in ways that you got to know the rules, right, Dr. Mark, before you can.
Absolutely. Well, it was really funny because I think it was Thursday. I got pinged by, I forget, it wasn't Colin, because I know Colin, you pinged me a lot, but there was a room called THC and terpenes. I'm like, ooh, this sounds interesting. And I was driving home, so I can't talk when I'm driving home. I just put it on and listen, you know. But I got invited up to speak, and, you know, 4 hours later, you know, I mean, we were in that fucking room for 4 hours talking, and Michael Backus was in there, and he's just got all kinds of interesting information. My God, he is a wealth of information, and his stories are fucking funnier than shit. And he's like, I got to leave the room. I've been in here too long. He left, and about 10 minutes later, he was back until the end of the night. I mean, it was just, it went on and on. I even started texting Colin because, man, I'm 4 hours in this room, and my wife's wondering, it's like, what is this Clubhouse thing every night? You know, it's like, and like, even with Hash Church, Mark, you'll get a kick out of this. I don't know how many other panelists get this, but my wife will ask me Saturday, is there a Hash Church this weekend? It's like trying to plan out the weekend, you know. It's like, okay, let's see. Do I lose Mark for like 4 or 5 hours on Sunday? Or is he part of, like, will he be part of like what the rest of my family does? So I'm sure that every panelist gets that from their spouse. But yeah, this Clubhouse thing is really, it's been a lot of fun. Those rooms take on a life of their own. There's a lot of animated performers in it. And for a while, that room only got down to like about 6 people, 7 people. I'm like, hey, maybe we should let this thing go. And then like an hour later, it blew up to like about 40 people again. So yeah, there's a lot of people hungry for the knowledge that we got. And so interesting to hear Michael and Mojave and everyone else. This fella Adam in there, I've learned an awful lot from, and some of the growers that come in are just really it's just killer to hear, you know, their knowledge and their stories.
Michael Bacchus is an amazing guy. Cannabis Pharmacy, The Practical Guide to Medical Marijuana is a key book of information. And yeah, I ran into him, oddly enough, Dr. Mark, in Maui. I was just at Maui one time, and then I was like, Bacchus? He's like, Etienne? Yeah. So, you know, he's just amazing. He was actually in there for.
Well, you guys have the same hairdo, don't you?
Oh yeah. We had to step into the shade for sure. Absolutely, way too much sunshine. He was there for a medical marijuana convention on the island that I was unaware of. So then I went and popped over and checked out, you know, what was going on there and talked to the organizers.
Marcus, he would be a great guy to get on. You know, he can break down, and he gets really. If you follow him on Instagram, he's been posting these groups of strains based on terpene prevalence. I don't want to butcher it, but I've only looked at them like really quickly. But if you look at it, it'll have like a list of the terpenes and then like groups of different strains that we all know, and how they're grouped based on the terpene prevalence and the terpene profiles of those. And he's really just done some fantastic work. And he's a creative guy, and he's really bubbly and effervescent. He would be great to get on Hash Church, Mark, if we can get him.
Yeah, on top of that, yeah, he has his own company. I think it's called Perfect, but he was also the consultants for Maui Grown, which are basically seed to sale, and has done amazing things with that dispensary there. So yeah, I would second bringing him.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of his book. I'm going to get a copy. I heard his book is really good, and he said he's writing a new edition, but again, with this thing, it just keeps on getting, there's so much information. I mean, I'm sure it becomes extremely voluminous to reduce it down to just a book, right? I mean, it becomes difficult.
Dude, revised and updated it a few times already. So yeah, he's doing it even more so because he is one. Last time I saw him, he's like, yeah, I'm going through about 1,400 articles on cannabis, and I'm about a halfway through. So he is a researcher's nerd's nerd, and his way to also retain it and spring it back to you. I mean, you have to have an actual thesaurus or a dictionary right there to start, you know, going through what he starts talking about. But I can see Bubble Man has the sun in, and it looks like it's about our time to get off. So I'm going to shut up and say I love you all and appreciate you. And thank you for allowing us this space, Marcus.
Thanks, Etienne. Thanks, everyone, for coming on. In particular, our special guest, Karu from Japan via Mexico City. Definitely keep us apprised, Karu, and we'll see. I'll get all your information that I can share out in the Hash Church group on Facebook, as well as the comments section here or the description section of this live video. And yeah, man, let's stay in touch. And thanks so much for coming and sharing your story. If you want to right now, let everyone know where they can find you on Instagram or social media. Take the floor now and let everyone know.
Yep. Thanks for having me today. And the things I want to say is like, okay, so I told you guys giving a lot of pleasures, right? I sent the link, like who like keep providing the propaganda. It's like a Ministry of like Health and Labor and Welfare. That's the government, our government, who does propaganda thing. So please give some pressure to them, you know. And please, everybody follows this at KaruTHC on Twitter, Instagram, everything. And please, please, please subscribe to my channel. Number matters. So sad though, but sorry. Thank you.
Thanks so much, brother. And thank you all the rest of you guys as well. Etienne and Dr. Mark and Wade and Skunkman Sam and Colin, everyone, Johnny B, who was here earlier. Yeah, you know, as always, may the full mouth bless your bowl sooner than later. We'll see you all next time. Peace out.